Hi everyone, welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba, and tonight we're about to watch Loki episode 4. Now, of course, that means we're now more than halfway through the series, which is insane because we just started, or it just feels as if we had just started, and now we only have 2 episodes left after tonight, and that will be the conclusion for Loki right there. Of course, this will be the last Marvel TV show we're gonna get this year, and then the last Marvel project overall this year will be The Marvels, which actually happens to be releasing the same night as Loki's season 2 finale episode. So I don't know why Disney did that. Interesting kind of coincidence right there. So definitely gonna be a double Marvel night on I believe it is November 9th. So I look forward to seeing both Loki season 2 finale, as well as the Marvels. Now, just to recap a little bit, because a lot has happened since the last episode. The last episode, as I said before, if you recall my reaction, I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I feel like that was definitely kind of a shift in direction in terms of the pacing and the storytelling. The first 2 episodes are really kind of just catching up on things and trying to figure out the whole situation that's going on, trying to calm down the whole chaos, mayhem, and disorder that was taking place at TVA. Finally, the last episode was starting to really kind of get a grip of its storytelling a little bit more, as well as doing this in a way that it definitely felt far more creative, a lot more fun in trying to execute the story that they have in place. Now, of course, last week's episode, one of the things that did happen, of course, is that they traveled in time to, I believe it was 1896. So the infamous year of the Edison, the Tesla, all that sort of stuff. They had the Chicago Fair, and that's where they eventually meet Victor Timely, and we get to finally kind of we finally circle back into that post-credit scene from Quantumania that we saw way back in February, and finally start to see kind of everything coming together, and finally seeing that scene play out on Loki. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot more questions going into it, because I feel like the episode itself, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of things going on. It really, matched the vibe of that era that they were in. I mean, it's 1896. There was a lot of this Chaplin sort of slapstick humor that we're getting in that whole episode. I think that really added a lot more of the quality and kind of this essence of what we really need the show to kind of go through. It doesn't always have to be serious, but also there can be a sense where we can take a bit more of a fun approach. And this one was definitely, because there was a little bit of this catch and mouse game that was going on in last week's episode, that it definitely felt like a really different energy compared to what we got in the first 2. So as I said, I really enjoyed episode 3, and I think that not just that, but episode 3 really opened up a lot of directions of where the show is gonna go, and added a bit more mystery as to what to anticipate going into the series. So of course, for one thing, the big question of matter is one of the reasons why they had to find Victor Timely is that, for one thing, is he gonna be the He Who Remains replacement, right? We saw that right in the beginning of the episode, that the reason why Renslayer and Miss Minutes wanted to go and search for this version of Kang, or this version of He Who Remains, is because he seems to be the best profile to really take over and bring back the balance of what happened with the TVA and all that sort of stuff. Of course, again, what happened with Sylvie and kind of her actions back in the season 1 finale. So that's gonna be a big question, as a matter of, is he gonna become that He Who Remains that Sylvie herself is very afraid of, or is he going to be a different version of He Who Remains, or does he have no aspirations becoming the version of He Who Remains that we remember from way back in season 1, the one who really controlled the TVA and controlled the timeline, and doing so in a way that there is some sort of stability, but also taking away that free will. That's going to be some of the big questions right there. Of course, another major situation at hand is the temporal loom. I mean, that one is, we've been seeing the last few episodes, we've seen Ki-Hu Kwan trying to, Obi trying to, deal with the whole situation with the temporal loom. It's really expanding. It's really becoming unstable. It could blow up any moment, as we've seen it throughout the last few episodes, that they need to contain this. They need to somehow override this whole situation, override the whole temporal loom, and stabilizing it somehow. And it seems as if that, at least in the case of Victor Timely, his temporal aura could be the answer to it. So again, that's gonna be another big question. Can he really fix this? Of course, there's a little bit of a hint that, he's kind of a con in a way that, that he is, he has schemed some of his clients. So is he a dud or is he the real thing? And of course, there's a lot of other things I have to be concerned about, of course, like Sylvie and what the future is going to hold. We saw way back in the first episode where Loki ended up in the future, met Sylvie, but we don't know exactly what was happening in that future at the TVA headquarters. So there's definitely a lot of questions going into the show. Of course, I think now that, after last week's episode, definitely added a bit more mystery to seeing, okay, well, now that we have these questions in mind, how are these going to be answered moving forward? Of course, another big part is, the fact that Miss Minutes is, seeing Ravana, and they end up in kind of, he remains his chambers from all the way back in the finale, and apparently there's a secret that he remains has that somehow is going to anger Ravana Rainslayer. Like, I mean, I'm wondering what that could imply. What is it? What is the secret? I'm going to assume that we're going to know probably in this episode. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot more kind of this intrigue of what's going on with the series, how things are going to be moving forward, how will this affect the multiverse and the nixes and the branches and the timelines and just time-space continuum itself. So yeah, I think I've mentioned everything I have to say. I feel like I'm really kind of in tune with the show as of right now. So without further ado, let's get right down into Loki episode 4.
You are quite a marvel. I would be proud to lead with you. The difference in this war. Thank you for being on my team.
War. Okay.
42.
Is it time?
Erase her memories.
Are you sure?
Erase all their memories.
If you say so.
That explains the situation in the first episode, or let alone the finale. That explains a lot of things.
You didn't just help. It was you who commanded the army.
So he built. I continued to do all the work to keep him there?
Well, something like that.
So, what are you proposing?
You've been
We
played.
don't need him.
Oh, it's a party. Hello. The more the merrier. You all want me. Ms. Ravona wants me.
And you're the only one who can help us fix it.
I don't think it'll change anything. Don't be so sure of that. Your words changed me.
Look,
Trust me, it's not that great, and we don't have time. Come on.
Listen, you're here to solve one of many problems. Then you're free to wander around all you want.
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros.
Yeah, that's me.
He's a fan.
You wrote to
From a brilliant 19th century inventor named Victor Timely. If we had the resources, it would have been bigger than Einstein.
You could have mentioned this. That's Victor Timely.
What did you say your name was?
If your work is based on his work and his work is based on your work,
Exactly.
It's a
Which came
paradox.
first?
It's like a snake eating its own tail.
Mr.
Or to carve out figures to represent all of us.
Balloon.
I'm honestly embarrassed that Victor is here to see it.
Okay, I think you're being a little hard on yourself, Phoebe. It looks great.
all right.
Someone killed he who remains and released all those branches and ruined my life.
Hang on. What's the connection between?
I mean, Loki's really gonna have to hoof it then, right? Why
He's
is it something to me how
sacrificing
we do it?
Loki.
Well, because it's your turn.
Says who? Why? Why is it something? Why is it me?
Well, because clearly this isn't me.
Just because it isn't you, it isn't necessarily me.
Listen, guys.
Your shit
Are they really
comes with
arguing
Guys,
about
shit
It's
this?
just it's somebody that's excuse. It could be anybody.
It's wearing a helmet thing to shit. And you want to leave it to them while we go and have some pie. Great idea, Mobius.
Silly, wait.
No, I won't wait. Come on, let's go and get some pie. Why not? It's
She
a
took
great
offense to
idea.
that.
Doesn't matter that the branches are dying.
I don't want to die in here.
Oh, really? Well, it seemed like you gave up when you sold out our plan.
I didn't know you knew that.
Oh, yes.
Didn't plan on coming to Pieland.
I asked for your help, and you walked away.
Just so we're clear, no, I didn't. I'm here, aren't I? Again!
You're only here because you couldn't kill him. Some years ago, my brother was banished from Asgard and sent to Earth. And when he came back, he was different. Changed somehow. I thought it was weakness. I mocked him. Said he'd gone soft.
Soft girl she killed.
Listen,
You're putting a lot of faith in those three back there. Then we hope that Timely doesn't turn into He Who Remains or someone worse. That's a lot of hoping, Loki. I didn't have you down for an optimist.
That's a lot of a
this is the
gamble.
best option we have.
Sounds like whatever we do, we're playing God.
We are gods.
Yeah, they are technically gods. He's a god of mischief.
This is really disappointing, I must say.
I know, I'm working on myself.
The temporal loom is imploding. We'll have a life on the timeline if they want it.
I have a hard time believing her.
How does it feel? Knowing that all of us here would rather die than follow you out that door.
Oh my god, this minute is a psycho. Oh my god, look at this minute. She's smiling. Oh my god, she's a psycho. She's a psycho. Oh my god, that does not sound great. Oh my god.
Let's go, X-Five.
That sound. Yay!
Spectacular.
How we learn?
Gymnastics just went down.
What? Yeah. Did you say hot cocoa machine? Yeah.
This temp pad's not working.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. For that. Yeah.
I love how he's just fascinated by that.
Weird. This one's not connecting either.
The heck?
About this
must be Renslayer.
hot cocoa machine.
Oh my god,
Go
why
ahead,
is he
take a look.
obsessed with hot cocoa? Oh my god. He's that fascinated by the hot cocoa. Oh, he just got pruned. Oh, snap.
So strange. All your files are being corrupted in real time. Did you download unauthorized schemes again?
No. I'm not gonna make that mistake twice.
Oh, something's still messing with this thing.
I mean, yours wasn't working either.
It's Miss Minutes.
What?
It's Miss Minutes. She's taking control of all the systems.
That's why the temp pads aren't working.
Oh, Miss Minutes not happy.
Thank God. You're both okay. Ms.
Sure.
Ravona. Sit down. Sitting
Miss
down.
Ravona.
What I have to say.
What does that mean?
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
This looks like the memory from the first episode where he goes to the future. This has gotta be it.
Sylvie?
This has gotta be it. This is the scene, right?
She's trying to slow us down.
Take this.
Yeah, that's the Loki from yeah. Okay, so that we're starting to get back together. We're starting to come together. This is... Yep. We're finally coming into a full circle. This is the one, yep.
No.
Ah, it's finally coming together. This is like a deja vu moment.
Come on.
Ah, so that was him. That makes a lot more sense.
Hello?
About time. What's taking you guys so long?
Obi.
Sabotaging everything. It's slowing us down.
What?
I could take her offline if I reboot the system.
Yeah. Reboot the
Try
system.
that. What do you think
We'll
about
lose the
before?
entire safety system.
So what? What are we gonna lose?
Someone's trying to reboot the system.
Hmm.
I can't access it. I'm being locked out. Locked out.
Well,
I need to tell you.
Oh my god.
You'll never be him.
Frick.
Hi, I'm Miss Min.
What do you say, X5? Fancy a rematch?
I didn't think I'd see you again so soon.
let's go.
Oh snap. Okay, she just been pruned.
Just put your head in the scanner.
Is that safe?
I haven't tested. Theoretically.
It's all right.
Welcome, he who remains.
Oh shit, it worked.
Can I come out?
Who's it gonna be?
I'll do it.
Oh.
I'll put the suit on.
Okay, let's go then.
Come on, let's move.
What?
What happened?
It's too high.
What did we do wrong?
I don't know.
It's too high. The radiation's too high.
I don't know.
Oh my god, did that explode? It just did explode. It looked like it just exploded. Oh my god. Bruh, nah. They can't just keep us hanging like that. Why? No. Wow. That was super grim. And there is just a lot to even unpack from this. Like, let me just start from that ending, because I mean, it was very clear that the radiation levels had gone up astronomically, and that's why they had to move really quickly. But just to see like Victor just disintegrate like that, and then of course just moments later see the temporal loom explode, like, and then just leaving it off there in that cliffhanger, like, holy crap. Like, I literally was just like, oh, everything's gonna be fine, and they're probably gonna be able to expand the rings of the temporal loom, and then nope, instantly, instant implosion, instant disintegration, like that was unexpected because it seems as if everything was moving smoothly. Like, I mean, we got to a point where Loki saved Victor Timely, which made it seem as if, oh, things are gonna go into motion, and then boom, like we had like the worst case scenario just play out. Now, of course, the big question is what happens, right? Where does this show go? What ended up happening? What basically was the impact, the effect of what just happened here, right? And that is that Victor Timely is, I mean, we're gonna assume that he is gone because of, again, he basically disintegrated right there, like into spaghetti. Like, I was just like, oh my god, like I was basically having like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness memories coming back, the memories when we saw Mr. Fantastic turn into spaghetti. But the big question, of course, is it just imploded. The temporal loop has imploded, or exploded in this case, and what does this mean for the TVA? Do the TVA survive? Does Loki survive? Do they all survive? Is there going to be some sort of effect? What does this mean for space-time continuum? I mean, this is like raising a lot of big questions that are very uncharted, because we don't know exactly what, this whole situation is going to imply. Like, it feels as if there's going to be kind of this black hole of what's going to happen this whole timeline. So there's a lot of uncertainty that we've just been left off with in this episode. I mean, this is episode 4 right now. We only have 2 more episodes left. So my only concern going into the last 2 episodes, if whether or not the story will be able to, use enough of that time to start bringing things together, explaining what happened, bringing it all into a circle, and explaining what had happened in the moment. That's going to be a big question. And a matter of, what does this mean for the TV's future? What does this mean for just timeline in general, the multiverse? Like, what is the effect of it is like the big question. So again, a super grim, dark ending right there. I feel like this is like very incomparable to anything we've really seen before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, we've had some very dark endings before. We've had some really tragic endings before. I mean, Infinity War would be a very good example of that. Endgame, we've seen the effects of that. We've had movies and TV shows before where, despite just it being a superhero genre, that is not always roses and daisies, right? We've had moments where things have gone a dark, grim route before, but this one is definitely like a clear cliffhanger. Like, we're just like, it definitely went straight into the black credits and not allowing us to know what happened. So that's definitely going to be a big question going to episode 5. Like, what happened? Where does this all go? What is going to be the effect, right? So what a way to end that episode. I think so far, in terms of which episode has the best ending so far, I think without a doubt this one, definitely one of the best ways to keep us so energized and have so much adrenaline, and then suddenly have this shock that just hit us, and then just having this whole temporal loom just explode, and then just leaving us hanging. Like, I was like, what? You just can't keep me hanging like that. Like, I want answers. And of course, like, this is implied for a reason. We're gonna have to wait a week to know what happened in this moment, but hopefully that 1 week will pass by very quickly. So yeah, what a very grim cliffhanger. I think it was done in a very well way, just to kind of set up the hype for it, and again, raises a lot of questions going into episode 5 and let alone episode 6. So I think that's one thing I wanted to mention. Now, of course, the one thing I was thinking about throughout this whole episode, of course, is the whole Victor Timely thing, because, again, the reason why Miss Minutes herself went to, Victor Timely, got Ravonna Rensselaer to go and deliver the TVA book, is because apparently he's supposed to kind of be the successor to He Remains, right? So there is that concern of, well, is Victor Timely going to basically fulfill his path of becoming He Who Remains? Can he be the next He Who Remains? Or is he someone who can be much more, someone who can be a bit more moral, who is willing to give that free will, unlike He Who Remains, who kind of kept that far more contained? So that was something that I thought was going to be a big question. Like, are we gonna start to see more of this exhibition of who this Victor Timely person is? I mean, there's been lots of implications in this episode that's implying that, Victor Timely could be, it's destined to become who he remains, because we saw that one moment between him and Obi, how they're, fangirling with each other about how, Obi, his knowledge comes from Victor Timely, and then Victor Timely, he fell in love with this book and really changed his whole mindset of how science works. And just to kind of have that, well, did the chicken cross which came first, the chicken or the egg, or having that paradox? It's okay, it definitely was okay, this seems like it's gonna send, in a sense, set up a whole cycle of maybe this is a whole cycle that always happens, right? And I'll talk about a little bit of my theory in a second, but I feel like it's a whole cycle that always happens in terms of situations like this. So it makes me think that, this is something that's always destined to happen or something like that, just because of the hints that we've been getting so far in this episode. Of course, that theory is probably going to be in a standstill, or probably, we don't know if that's even going to be possible, considering the fact that we just saw Victor Timely just basically look like he died. I mean, again, we don't know what is going to happen. Of course, there could be other variants or something, but that changes everything, right? The fact that Victor Timely is gone, the fact that they were too late to really contain the whole temporal lobe, and doing so with the aura, it's okay, this is a definitely dangerous situation for everyone at the TVA. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see if that cycle, the whole speculation, even comes to fruition. I mean, I thought it was going to be up until we got to that final moment right there. But another big question, of course, is the whole situation that we get in the very beginning of this episode, this revelation of what really happened. Because again, it seems as if there was at some point that everyone at TVA had their memories wiped. That seems pretty clear. I mean, we're getting that essence that something must have happened, because we saw back in the first episode that it wasn't technically that, Loki was in a different universe, but he was actually time traveling. So when he, after the events of season 1 finale, he ended up being in the past of TVA, where, this is before his version of Loki even ended up at TVA. And then, of course, we've seen the contrast of it. We see how, that TV in the past had, these statues of He Who Remains everywhere. He seemed as if he was kind of the commander, that he was someone who was really in charge of things that everyone looked up to. And then, of course, we see in the present day that we don't have all of that stylized, right? Not many people even knew who He Who Remains was, right? Or maybe they did, but not to the extent of knowing who he is, how he looks, or kind of his capability, not in a way that they kind of worshipped him or really looked up to him as a big leader. And so it seemed pretty clear that there was some sort of memory wipe that happened throughout the whole TVA, and that's now been confirmed right here in that episode, where everyone's memories were definitely wiped. And it still seemed as so that during that period that there was some sort of war going on. Now, I'm gonna assume that that war has to deal with the Kings, the He Who Remain variants. I'm assuming that's the war that they're implying, that they're probably speaking about. Of course, that's going to be the big thing that, we're anticipating is going to be a build up to the later Avengers movies that we're going to get, like Secret Wars, Kang Dynasty. Does this mean that this is what they're trying to imply? Because remember, back in Quantumania, the second post-credit scene, we see all these different Kangs, all these different He Who Remain variants come together and gather in this arena, what appears to kind of be their way of, implying some sort of conquest. So I'm assuming that that's what that war is. that He Remains is talking about. We even remember back in the season 1 finale where He Remains even talks a bit more into details of why they have to keep things stabilized, why they have to have the sacred timeline, why we can't have things like free will, why we can't have these branched timelines, because he has met different versions of his variants. Some of them are mild, they're not as, power hungry as some other versions, while other versions are ruthless, merciless. They are basically very dangerous, and those are the ones that really concerned He Who Remains this whole time. That's the reason why that, apparently, like, I believe he even said that they even went into a whole war, and eventually he was able to contain them all up until the point where this meant having to keep a single sacred timeline without having too many branches that would conflict with everything that's going on, as well as the fact that trying to control any of the more dangerous kings. And again, we've met one version of He Remains, which is Kang from back in Quantumania. We've met that version, and apparently that version seems to be one of the more milder types, not like the one who's very power hungry. He seemed as if he was going to be kind of the executioner who was actually going to protect that timeline. At least that was being implied by the end of that, and by the end of Quantumania, where he seemed to be the one who's supposed to control all that, or that he was supposed to be answers to that. So, which again, it's like very complex, very complicated, because the way that Kang was, talking to Janet, talking to Scott and Hope, and giving off this really bad vibe. It's like, okay, he seems too dangerous, seems too villainous, that we can't trust this guy. Yet it seems as though he could have actually been kind of the savior that, that universe needed to protect themselves against the other Kangs who are far more dangerous. So I'm assuming again that the war that He Who Remains is talking about here, the one where he has a conversation with Ravonna Renslayer, in that, that memory footage, that flashback footage that Miss Minutes showed. I'm going to assume that the war that they're talking about is the one concerning the whole King situation, the He Who Remains, all those variants. I'm assuming that's what that war is probably going to be. I mean, again, there could be a whole different war, that we don't really know about. Maybe there's something else that happens. I feel like just because of everything that we've seen so far, the information that we are able to gather with what we've seen in some of the other movies and TV shows, that I feel like the war is very likely the whole situation with He Who Remains, the other Kangs, and that's probably what they're discussing, and that's probably why he had everyone minds wiped out, just because they probably will remember the whole situation with Kang, and the last thing they want to do is remember He Who Remains. And He Remains probably wants to contain what is the sacred timeline, and making sure that he is someone who can keep control of that. And of course, once Sylvie killed him back in the season 1 finale, that unleashed everything, right? Like, the sacred timeline can do whatever. There's unlimited free will, but this means that there's gonna be a lot of branch timelines. This means that we're probably gonna have a lot of different Kang variants, He Remain variants, all that sort of stuff. And of course, the one mild version that we do meet here is Victor Timely, who we thought was probably going to be the next He Who Remains. Again, lots of questions as to whether or not that's even going to happen, because we just saw what happened here, that he basically just perished, basically. So yeah, I think right now there's a lot of things going on. I feel like there's a lot of mystery that remains to be unresolved. I think this one definitely had a lot more questions as to what's next. How does this not only affect the TVA and the time-space continuum in this universe, but also how does this impact all the rest of the other universes, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general, right? Like, what does this mean for the Sacred Timeline? What does this mean about the branch timelines? What does this all mean that, in terms of the multiverse? Like, how is this going to be consequential? And having seen what we just seen right now, it's like, okay, wow, this is totally bad, and I want answers. So hopefully we'll get these answers. Hopefully we'll see what happens in the next episode. I think having talked about just a little bit of the story elements and what has been discussed, it appears as though there might even be another war from the looks of it. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see more Kangs right after this episode. Who knows? I don't know if we're going to see Victor Timely ever again, because, I mean, I believe it was the showrunners who had mentioned before that that Victor Timely was not going to appear too much, or at least not as like a major character, or at least not one who is featured consistently throughout every episode. So who knows, maybe this was just it of him. We'll see by the next 2 episodes. I mean, we only have 2 episodes left, so there's already a lot of things that the show has to really unpack. I mean, we just had another big mystery kind of come to our palm of our hands now, and it's like, okay, well, this series is gonna wrap at some point, right? Unless there's gonna be a season 3, or unless this is gonna continue off with something else that's already in development in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Like how they're gonna bring everything together, how they're gonna conclude this primary arc that we've had. I mean, again, even though we've seen so many things that have happened so far, whether it be trying to contain kind of the more short-term situations that have been going on the TVA, trying to maintain order, trying to deal with the loyalists and those who are a bit more on the radical side, or the fact that we are dealing with Sylvie, who has definitely been a bit more contemplative about whether or not she should be helping the TVA, or whether or not she should just stay in her timeline and live the life that she wants, and try to live it, considering the fact that anything could happen. Or the fact that we see Loki and Mobius trying everything they can to bring some sort of peace and control, and doing so in a way that there's still that ability to promote something like free will in the timeline. Like, there's a lot of things going on, and I mean, there's a lot of things going on in terms of like the subplots that we've seen so far, and how a lot of them have been resolved. Like, we've seen areas where things have been resolved. It does really kind of bring a whole circle into the storytelling. But then, of course, the primary story, the primary arc has been regarding temporal lobe, the fact that the timeline is currently unstable, the fact that there are so many branches right now that's causing this instability with the temporal loop, and now we've seen the consequence of it. Now it's a matter of what's seeing the aftermath of that situation. So again, I think that so far the show has done a pretty good job. I mean, I still think the last episode was I think a better episode, just because of far more consistent pacing, and there was a lot more going on where I had a lot more fun with it. This was definitely a change of a whole change in the essence of what was going on. Things were far more in a serious kind of manner because of the fact that they were back in the TVA trying to handle the situation with the temporal loom, and of course that did not succeed. But that was kind of the primary situation that was happening right here, where it's like, of course, it makes a lot more sense why there isn't a lot more of that relaxed storyline, because everything's now getting back to the primary storyline, which is of course the temporal loom, the TVA, and doing so in a way that they can start really kind of getting down to kind of the final bits of the storytelling. I mean, and I feel like in the beginning there were a couple moments here and there where it's like, okay, I would like to kind of continue off, but I think the last like 10-15 minutes was really well done, especially again setting up that ending right there. I think this is definitely, even though it's not my favorite, I think this is definitely the second best so far this season. I think it could even rank as one of the top 5 episodes that we've gone so far overall with this whole series, because I think that's like 12 episodes in total of Loki that we've had so far, like including season 1. So if that's the case, I feel like this is a very good episode so far. There was definitely a lot of emotion, there was a lot of tension. We've seen a lot of tragic things that have happened. We've seen some really grim, dark shit happen right here. I mean, we saw like a little bit earlier how Renslayer, or was probably Miss Minutes, where they use that cube to basically implode everyone inside, like all those hunters and all the TVA, workers, or the radicalists or loyalists who are, because they know for a fact who Renslayer is, the fact that Dots knew, Renslayer's nature, that she could not be trusted, and decided that it was best, that it's better that she would be a martyr rather than actually giving up her integrity to work with someone like Ravonna, right? So, and then just seeing the effect of that and how they basically basically imploded them, I mean, even though we didn't get to actually see it on the screen, you can just hear it, and it was just kind of like, wow, that is chilling. So lots of grim, dark stuff we got out of this episode. I think this is, again, really edging into territories I've never really seen Marvel, any sort of Marvel project ever, produced before. And again, I think it really exemplifies stakes of what's going on. We're getting a sense of things are about to take a turn very soon. And again, it may not just be the TVA itself, but it could have a much higher scale effect on the actual universe itself. So we'll see if that's going to become a thing. Again, the big question is going to be what's going to happen next episode. We saw Ravonna get pruned, so where is she? Is she gone for the rest of the show? Who knows? But yeah, and Miss Minutes. Can we just talk about Miss Minutes? I think she's a psycho. Like I swear to God, she's like the fact that she was enjoying the fact that people were in pain, were being squeezed out. Like that was really creepy. Like holy crap! Like who would have thought that Miss Minutes was not just a creep but a psycho? Yes, just someone who's just to indulge in like other people's pain, like and suffering. Like oh my God, like what the heck? But yeah, I think that this episode has really taken a big turn. One I did not expect, especially because we are getting down to kind of the final episodes. I thought that we were just going to continue on with trying to finish up with the primary arc, but it's like every episode we're getting something really big. We've got some really good cliffhangers we've gotten some really some new information, developments of where the story has been going. I think this show again it speaks for itself why Loki is the only Marvel TV show that's managed to get a season 2 or any sort of season renewal. I mean, who knows if we're gonna even get a season 3, because that's gonna be a big question mark, of course, because again it's a matter of what has been set up for the MCU, what Kevin Feige, the Marvel Studios team have in mind, what their vision is and what they feel like it's going to be their end game going into the multiverse saga. So we don't know for a fact that if there's going to be more of Loki, even though we've seen Tom Hiddleston has been a really big player this whole series. Although I will say, like in this episode and last episode, we've seen a little less of his screen time than we saw in the first 2 episodes, just because there's just a lot of things going on right now in the whole TV situation and the conflicts and again the consequences that have been happening so far. And again, we finally got that one scene, really bringing back the whole circle of things that have been happening. Again, I figured we were going to get to that point. We finally got to that point, of course, where he finally met his future, and it was just like that deja vu moment. And it seemed as if he himself had actually saved his past or his present self. I guess you can say present self. Saved his present self during that crucial moment, because he sort of should have been pruned to come back, and eventually things worked out, right? So, but that was about it. I think that at least that was one thing that got solved. Of course, we now know where Loki was and what was happening in the moment. We now know where that situation has been. Of course, we've had far more dire situation going on way beyond what happened in episode 1. Now it's a matter of what happened, right? That's going to be the big question going into episode 5. What happened? What happened to the characters? What does this mean? What should we be afraid of? What could we hope for? There's gonna be a lot of questions going into that when we get to episode 5. And I think that basically wraps up all I have to say about it. I think I've basically jotted down everything. I basically touched upon everything that has happened in this episode 4, as well as kind of discussing everything else that happened the past episodes. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are having watched episode 5. Like, do you think this is probably one of the darkest, not just episodes, but one of the darkest stories that we've gotten so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What are your thoughts about this cliffhanger? Like, what are your theories, predictions? Do you think that they have survived? Do you think there's going to be this black hole? Is there this sort of restart or a reset button that just got caused as a result of this? What does this mean for the timelines that we've had so far? Like, does this mean that every universe has been shattered, or like what's going on with that? Like, what do you think has happened as a result of this situation that just happened at the end of this episode? What do you think about what is this war that Kong was talking? Oh, not Kong. Sorry, He Who Remains was talking about earlier in the episode. Do you think it's the war that I was mentioning about? Like, I already said my theory about it. Do you think there was a different war that he was probably implying, that maybe there's some past details that maybe I just overlooked, and maybe that's the war that he's talking about? Or could it be exactly what I've been saying, which is, of course, the whole situation with the Kong variant? Like, could that be the war that they were talking about? And so why did Kong decide to wipe everyone's memories off? And then, of course, another big question is Victor Timely truly dead? I mean, is he gone for good? Are we going to see are we going to be able to see a different version of Victor Timely? Or is that it? Like, are we not going to see any more of He Who Remains' variants? Or are we going to see more of different types? That's going to be a big question, of course. If we do get to see another version of Victor Timely, would it be the version that, becomes He Who Remains? And will that become a concern? We've been hearing that from Sylvie. She's been expressing her concerns about it very, very, outright there. Like, I mean, she has every reason to be concerned about that. So does that mean that could become a potential scenario in the future? Again, what happened, right? We had a big cliffhanger. What does this mean? What does this imply for everything that's going on in the future? Like, how will things wrap up now that we only have 2 more episodes left? Will we have a season 3 as a result of the things that have just transpired in this episode? And what does this mean in terms of, the universe and the multiverse, right? Like, where does it all go? Like, what are the consequences? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.